right, so episode 35. Today we are talking books. Now, I've mentioned this a few times before, but I am not a reader at all. I've never been a reader. My sister has always been the big reader of the family. She's actually a librarian now, which is kind of funny, but it was never for me. I mean, even like Harry Potter as a kid, I could never just get through them. There was just way too much description and scene setting about like the cloaks and the owls, and they were just never really able to hold my attention. And my partner is actually a pretty big reader too, but she really like reads really fast, so it like messes me up. Sometimes I think she's like faking it because she'll go through like a 400-page book in like a week, whereas I'll finish like a 200-page book in like 2 weeks. I mean, I'm borderline probably like a sixth grade reader realistically. So it's super hard for me to like just even like stay engaged. I'll pick up a book and after like 2 pages, I'll just get like super distracted and I'll have to reread. Or if I yawn once, it's just completely over and I'm like yawning every 45 seconds and then I just end up putting the book aside. But not this year. 2023, I found the hack of the century, audiobooks. And I get it, it's technically still not reading, but listening to audiobooks has allowed me the opportunity to really just stay engaged, do other things while I listen, and like retain information that I would have otherwise just completely ignored or not given a chance at all. But listening to audiobooks definitely gave me more confidence to actually pick up and physically read a book or two throughout the year as well. So in 2023, I either listened to or read a total of 38 books, and directly after I finished each book, I'd rate each one on a scale of like 1 to 5. So a 1, this book is just a piece of shit. I barely made it through. 2, it was difficult to get through, but I don't like regret reading it. 3, the book is what I expected it to be. This is like a C rating. 4 out of 5, I really enjoyed it. I'd recommend it to someone. And 5 out of 5, this book is great. I'd even be open to like rereading it again in the future. I don't think I really gave out any 1s at all throughout the year. I gave out a small amount of 2s. The majority of the books landed in the 3 range. But a handful of these books really fell into the 4 to 5 category, and I thought I'd share my top 10 reads of 2023. Now, before I dive into these, let me kind of disclose the type of books that really interest me. Unfortunately, I'm not a fiction or fantasy guy. I just can't get swept up into like this other world when I'm reading. I think I need like visuals in that sense for like that genre. Like that's why I really enjoy movies over books for the majority of the time. But most of the books that I really read or listened to fell into either the self-help category or like autobiographies or business and marketing. I like this real world kind of knowledge that I can apply into my day-to-day life when reading. So that being said, let's just dive in and work our way through. All right, well, coming in at number 10, we have Banana Ball by Jesse Cole. This is a very interesting and true story that really revolves around the world of baseball. Now, many of you have probably heard or seen the clips of the viral Savannah Bananas, and this is a story of kind of their journey. It's super interesting. So Jesse Cole, who's always been a longtime baseball fan, really understood that the sport was losing fans. You know, the game is long, it's boring for various stretches at a time. And in an age where our attention spans are only getting like shorter and shorter, he wanted to find a way to really keep the sport alive because he loved it so much. So he transformed the Savannah Bananas into a league of champions and introduced kind of Banana Ball, a fast and fun, just entertaining version of the game. So the team's like unique approach includes unconventional rituals like throwing out the first banana or choreographed dancing to music that the players participate in. They wear costumes. They interact with the crowd a lot, and it's a really fun environment that moves at a very fast pace compared to the normal game of baseball. But at its core, I think this is really a business and marketing book. I mean, Jesse really shares his ideas and experiences about how he's kind of like reimagining the game. He kind of discusses the importance of implementing social media into their strategy as they introduce new people into the game as well. So that's super interesting. But here's just like a brief stat of just what Jesse's vision was able to achieve in just a few years. The Bananas went on tour this past year, and they actually came to Vegas as well. We didn't see them, but they were here. And they covered games everywhere from like California to Maine. They drew over 550,000 fans. There was a ticket waiting list of more than 1 million names. And then they boosted the team's TikTok over to, I think it was over like 7 million followers, doubling last year's total and even growing larger than the MLB's official feed. So it's a pretty crazy thing to do. And it's a pretty crazy accomplishment that this guy's been able to do. But it's a super easy read if you're kind of interested in either sports or business, but it's a good one. It's kind of interesting to see how that social media in today's day and ages can really redefine a business. Number 9 is Greenlights by Mr. Matthew McConaughey, everyone's favorite actor. But throughout the book, McConaughey really opens up a lot about his kind of wild childhood that he went through, his relationship with his parents, and kind of the rise of his stardom, really. It's actually pretty interesting to hear about his kind of like evolution through Hollywood, because he was obviously typecast for a while into this very specific like rom-com role, and he understood that, and you kind of get his perspective on it and how he like flipped the script for his career. And along the way, there's just all of these really crazy stories about how he's kind of really, it's basically he's having these reoccurring wet dreams and throughout his life, and he just goes and follows kind of what these dreams are about and finds the meaning behind them. So it's very odd, but it is very interesting at the same time. And throughout the book, there is this like reoccurring theme as he discusses his approach to life that provided him more satisfaction and enabled him to catch green lights, as the book is called. But it's very like poetic in a sense, and it's honest, which makes it very interesting because, in my opinion, you really don't get to hear kind of this level of vulnerability from like an A-list celebrity very often. But it is a very good book. I rated it a 4 out of 5. The audiobook was narrated by him as well, which makes like even a stronger connection to the story. I listened to it a few months ago when I was driving to California and was just very intrigued throughout the whole like 4-hour drive. Like it was an interesting story, and he's got kind of a crazy life. Number 8 on my top 10 list was Think Like a Monk, Train Your Mind for Peace and Purpose Every Day by Shetty. Now, before I listened to this book, I just really didn't vibe with this guy, Shetty, man. I knew a little bit about his story and how he trained to be a monk, but then eventually left it behind. And now he's this best-selling author and has his own podcast and does these interviews with all these stars. And I was like, dude, this dude just seems so just fake to me for some reason. I just don't know what it was. And I didn't like him. But I gave the book a chance, and I think it's a great introductory book to the world of meditation. I mean, I've read a handful of books this year on meditation, but I think this one really just allowed me to understand the basics, and it focuses on like the everyday lessons, like how to overcome negative thoughts and habits and reduce stress and even improve relationships. And there's this one part in the book where he recites this mantra. I think he does actually a couple times in the book, but I still think about this mantra probably daily, but overall it just promotes a really strong message. And if you're interested in like broaching the world of meditation at all, I think this is a very good, really introductory to what it is, whether it's like mindfulness meditation or transcendental meditation that you're interested in. It just provides a very like relatable picture that anyone can really implement into their everyday lifestyle. At number 7, I have Dave Grohl's The Storyteller, Tales of Life and Music. If you don't know who Dave Grohl is, he is the lead singer for the Foo Fighters, and he was the drummer for one of the best classic rock bands, Nirvana. So in this autobiography, he talks about his childhood and his relationship with his mother, who really raised him as like a single mother, his musical journey, and then his approach on being a father as he kind of grew with age and started his own family. But this dude had a absolute insane life. I mean, throughout the book, you just get a feel of like a sense of like positivity and gratefulness that he just like, it's like an aura around him. And this guy did not have an easy life whatsoever, but it's just very like true and honest. And you get a deep dive into his relationships. And I mean, this guy lost like 2 of his best friends, like lifelong friends. And he just remains just so optimistic about life. And it's so kind of interesting. I mean, he's really been through a lot, but it's very cool to just you get a sense of just how grateful this guy is to experience what he has. And there's one really funny snippet in the book where he goes into like his coffee addiction too, which is pretty funny. And so it's just very relatable at the same time. But he's someone who you could like, he could sit next to Paul McCartney, or he could sit next to a random guy at the bar, and I feel like you're still just getting the same version of him. Like, he is just a great storyteller. And it's just a really, he's a rocker, man. I mean, he's like a modern day rocker, and you get to hear kind of his journey throughout his like musical experience, and being in like two of the just super great bands throughout his lifetime. I mean, it's pretty crazy to hear the stories that this guy's encountered in his life. Moving on to number 6, I have like, comment, subscribe, Inside YouTube's Chaotic Rise to World Domination. Now, this book is crazy. If you're into marketing or social media at all, you will just love this book. You like get deep dives into the history of YouTube, and throughout the book, you're getting behind the scenes look at everything that went down, from like the algorithm changes throughout the years, to Google's acquisition, to scandals, and then even like there was a shooting that happened on the YouTube campus that they like totally talk about in depth. It was super crazy, and it was just wild to hear all of these stories. And you don't really think about the sheer mass of number of videos that are being uploaded to YouTube, like on even like a minute level. But in the earlier days, there were just these teams of people who had to just monitor all of this content. And a lot of the content was from like terrorist organizations or pedophiles, and their job just like it just fucked up these people. And it was just, it's such a crazy read to understand like all of the everything they had to go through just to monitor all of the content that was just being uploaded. And really, just as a business, their approach to this was just so fascinating to me, because there's just such a gray area. I mean, there still is, but of what should be allowed to stay up and what needs to come down. And they talk about like the rise of influencers, and like the Logan Paul fiasco that everyone forgot about, where he uploaded this video and like it was just bad. But yeah, I mean, it's a great just business marketing book. I think a lot of people will enjoy it. It's a longer read. It was definitely one of the longer reads of the year, but totally held my interest throughout the whole way through, and really gave you a deep insight of kind of like one of the biggest platforms of our lifetime and everything, and how it just evolved throughout the time. But it's super crazy, and yeah, great read. All right, so number 5, we've made it halfway through now. We're doing good. Let's keep pushing. So at number 5, I think from now on, all of these books I've rated 5 out of 5. So these are like the top books that I've read throughout the year. But number 5 is Junior, Writing Your Way Ahead in Advertising by Thomas Kemeny. If you work for an advertising agency, you want to work for an advertising agency, or like have any aspirations of that field in the future, you should definitely read this book. Yeah, overall, I mean, it's just super fun and easy read. I mean, the author is hilarious. He talks about how he got into some of the just best agencies in the US, while also providing kind of a lot of tips for copywriters on how to like write in a fun and smart and just effective way. And he includes like emails from his earlier days of him trying to like land a job, and it's him and the recruiter going back and forth, and he's just like fun, and he shows that you can, not everything has to be super formal in like a business setting. Like, you could still have fun in your writing and make just a really good overall impressions when you provide a solid voice behind a brand. And I don't think it is in an audiobook form yet, but coming from a non-reader, there were many times where I didn't want to put this book down, and that's like something I've never really experienced before. So definitely a good read for anyone interested in marketing. I would highly recommend it. At number 4, I think this is the future Bible for any creative. It is The Creative Act, A Way of Being by Rick Rubin. For those of you who may not be familiar with Rick Rubin, he is a music producer who has worked with artists like the Red Hot Chili Peppers, Johnny Cash, Jay-Z, Tom Petty, Weezer, Adele, Kanye, and just so many more. Like, every big name you could possibly think of, this guy has worked with. He is a musical genius behind some of the best albums known to man, And the craziest part is he is not a musician. He doesn't play instruments, and he basically just goes into every situation with an open, creative mindset, and he's like, let's see what happens. But throughout the book, he really details kind of where creativity comes from and how anyone, even if you don't think you're creative, how you can access it. I've listened to this book twice now. The first time I was just totally captivated, and the second time I actually took shrooms and listened to it, and it was fucking awesome, man. Like, it's his voice narrating it too, which makes it even better. And every single page just contains like a morsel of knowledge that you can steal from and apply just to your life at any time. This is definitely a book that I want in physical form, so I can just like highlight the shit out of it and tear it to pieces and just fucking write all over it, just because there's so much wisdom inside. And if you're ever in a creative rut, like, you could just pick up this book, turn to any page, and you'll get something out of it. It's a 10 out of 10. Just read it. Rick Rubin is the greatest, and it's an amazing, amazing book. Book number 3 for 2023 is Stillness is the Key by Ryan Holiday. I mean, this was the year of Ryan Holiday for me, man. I mean, I listened to 5 total books from Ryan Holiday this year, and they were all just amazing. I mean, they were all great in their own way, but Stillness is the Key was definitely my favorite. Ryan Holiday, if you don't know, is like a modern day like stoic philosopher that really pulls a lot from people throughout history and kind of breaks down either their greatest achievements or failures. And typically with each book, he focuses on a key like virtue. But this book, he specifically describes why slowing down in a like nonstop, fast-paced world is kind of like the secret weapon for charging ahead. For me personally, I love the idea of just staying disciplined, putting your head down and getting shit done. And like, you don't need to be the loudest person in the room to be the most powerful. And I've always respected those people who kind of work when no one else is watching. And Stillness is the Key is really like, it just provides a detailed kind of look at what it takes to really achieve a path of like meaning and purpose and success. But yeah, I mean, Ryan Holiday, his books are all like at least 4 out of 5, 5 out of 5 for me. I mean, they are all just so good, and they all just contain so much knowledge. And you can just tell he does so much research into every individual person that he studies and writes about. All right, we are getting down to it. So my second favorite book of 2023 was Shoe Dog by Nike's founder, Phil Knight. So my brother-in-law actually gave me this book, and it's probably the best memoir I have ever read. Ever. It's just great. The book begins with Knight's early days, detailing kind of the challenges and the triumphs that he faced while starting this company. Initially, it was known as Blue Ribbon Sports, so that's kind of like an insider cool little thing about Nike that you learn. But throughout the book, you get a really inside look at kind of the complexities of building a global brand and the perseverance that really is required to overcome just obstacle after obstacle that this poor man ran into. I mean, he had to overcome just so many things to find success, and it was truly just unbelievable. And after reading this, I was like, I never want to wear another shoe besides a Nike again, just out of pure respect for this man alone and what he built. And every brand and everyone was trying to take this guy down, and he succeeded, and he just made it through year after year, and he went through so much just to make this shoe brand worldwide. But if you're into business even remotely, this is like the book to read, in my opinion. It is just a great story of how to build a brand. All right, well, finally, we made it to my top rated book of the year, which was Winning: The Unforgiving Race to Greatness by Shari Wenk and Tim Grover. So Tim Grover was the trainer to some of the most elite, iconic athletes in the world, including the late, great Kobe Bryant, Dwayne Wade, and Michael Jordan. And really throughout his career, he's just developed into a mindset expert that focuses on the reality of really what it takes to elevate above everyone else in your field and just achieve greatness. Now, what I really love about Tim is that he's got this kind of old-fashioned, just grit way of thinking. Like, this book is not for people who believe in things like participation awards. This dude is brutal, but at the same time, he's like extremely honest. And throughout the book, he's basically personifies the idea of winning. And through numerous stories in his time of like training these athletes and like who just achieved this unbelievably legendary status, you know, you kind of get a little sense of what it takes to achieve success. Now I believe he's a motivational speaker, so you could definitely find his stuff on like YouTube or Instagram as well. But if you're into like self-help or sports or business at all, this guy is the greatest. It'll motivate you beyond belief. But in addition to that, like it goes beyond the motivational side. It really focuses on the importance of discipline, which keeps you going a lot longer than just like sheer motivation. And it just like, you will not look at life the same, I think, after reading this. You just want to just succeed. That's it. That you just want to achieve this level because he makes it seem so obtainable. So those are my top 10. Based off these, let me know if you have any recommendations at all. I would love to hear them. I will definitely be continuing my audiobook obsession as we move into 2024. I'm looking forward to what's to come. But until then, thank you very much for listening. I appreciate it, and I'll talk to you next week.